Hey everybody, welcome back to the OTH vlog and happy Wednesday to all of you. Today's vlog, we're going to be touching on something that was touched on in the original blog post when all this stuff started, and that is our weather forecast and how to read forecast here in Southern California. And I'm going to break this down to you in a couple different steps. So first thing we're going to look at is the actual kite season of Southern California. Kite season for us is from March till October. The first few months of our season, March, April, May, tend to be the best months when we get our spring winds. They're a little bit stronger. June tends to be June gloom for us, and things kind of slow down, so we don't get that great of wind kicking in, and we have a little bit of gloomy months. And as we get into July, August, and September, things can kind of turn around for us a little bit, and that's when we get some better winds coming through. But it's all based on how warm it gets, which we'll get to here in a bit with what we call the heat bubbles in those months. So first off, we're going to look at iKitesurf. And when we look at iKitesurf, we're going to dive into the app. So take a look at this. Okay, so we're going to be looking at iKitesurf and helping us decide what the wind's going to do today. So we're going to go into Belmont Shore. And at Belmont Shore, the things I really look for in iKitesurf when I'm first looking at it in the morning is really direction and current wind. So if we look at the very top, we're going to see that the wind is blowing at 3 miles per hour out of the southeast. Now direction is very important in the mornings because it's going to give you an idea of what it's going to do for the rest of the day. So what we want to really see is the wind coming out of either the southwest or the west. When it's coming out of the southeast like this in the morning, it's usually coupled with clouds, which we currently have, and it's not a really good start to your day because our south and southeast directions are not the dominant wind directions for us here in Southern California, and it's going to have to switch before it really starts to kick in. So that's something that we are going to take a look at and take into consideration for what the wind's going to do. Now if we look at, we have our complete report, we have our wind graph, forecast table, and tide. So let's go ahead and hit the wind graph. Now inside the wind graph, you're going to see red, blue, and green lines that are all over the place, and you're going to see a blue and gray solid line. Now the red, blue, and green lines indicate gusts, average wind, and lulls respectively. This updates every few minutes and gives a kind of a current wind situation with also what the wind's been doing over the past few hours. Now you look at the bottom, you're going to see yellow arrows, gray arrows, blue arrows. The yellow arrows indicate the actual wind direction for what has been observed. The gray arrows are a forecast for the quick look, and the blue arrows are regards to the WRF forecast and regards to the blue line that you see above. As I scroll forward, you can see that there's going to be a gradual little increase in the wind today. Nothing too crazy as the wind gets to its peak around 3, just above 10 miles an hour. And as you look at those arrows below, it looks like it's going to be coming out of the south for most of the day, kind of southwest. Now I'm really looking at just the blue line here. The gray line is the quick look forecast, and it's not as accurate. It doesn't really give us that great of information for what the wind's going to be doing that day, whereas the blue is our better guess at what the wind's going to be doing. They use a different algorithm set that's more specific to that kiting area and can be a bit more accurate. As we scroll through the day, we can see the wind kind of lets off later in the evening, and then as we go into tomorrow, slightly lower winds, maybe a little bit bumpy later in the afternoon, but this really just gives us a general idea of what the wind's doing throughout the actual day and its current situation. Now if I really want to look ahead at what the wind's going to do, I will go into our forecast tables. Now in the forecast table, what I have set up here is the WRF forecast, and I find that this is the more accurate of the forecast. When you get set up with iKitesurf, it sets you a default quick look, which we'll look at here in a second. But this forecast model uses algorithms specific to our area in Belmont and can be a bit more accurate. And as you look here, you're going to have these bars. Basically, each of the bars indicate the time of the wind and what it will be doing as the gusts are at the top, gusts are at the bottom, average wind at the top, and then the direction of the arrows inside. So again, south wind with a little bit of a bump around 3, and then gradually letting off. And again, this forecast only looks ahead at about a little over a day. So tomorrow looks like a little bump in the afternoon. That could be pretty good for us, but that's all the farther we can look ahead. Now as we look at our other forecast models, if you toggle the little gear icon at the top right, It's going to get us into the models, and you can see there's a bunch of different options here. Now these models all have different forecasts, and you can see if we look at the quick look, this is the default setting in iKitesurf when you first get it. It's going to be quite a different situation here. Now the quick look looks at a larger satellite image, uses different algorithms, and is not very accurate for current wind and what the wind speeds will actually be for that day. But you'll see here, if I scroll ahead, you can look quite a bit more days ahead, and that's just because they're using a larger satellite image. You can get a better guess of what the wind's going to be doing in the future. So not a great one for looking at current wind situation, but if you want to kind of get an idea of what the rest of the week's going to look like the days that there might be wind, there's the best way to look at it. So I look for anything over 12 to 13 miles an hour, and that is going to be a good indicator if that day is going to be windy. So you can see here on this Tuesday, pretty good. If we go into another forecast model, clicking that little gear icon and going into models, let's say we look at the, let's say NAM 3 kilometer, go back, now this is going to change even again. You'll see here that it's basically just showing a little bit of wind throughout today and a little bit Thursday, but that's all further. And it's just a different forecast model looking at different satellite images and different areas. So that's really what I look for when looking at iKitesurf. Wind direction, wind speed of the current wind, and then looking at the wind graph and forecast models. All right, now we're going to talk a bit more on how looking at that wind and in regards to our weather, how that kind of affects things. So if we look at the actual weather for the day, I'm really looking at the wind we just looked at, but also I'm kind of hedging my bets on what I'm seeing with actual weather forecasts. So what I want to see in the morning is clear skies. I don't want to see any kind of overcast past 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. If it's overcast into the afternoon, like let's say like 12 o'clock, it doesn't really help our wind out too much. So we want to make sure that we have clear skies right off the bat. Now, what we also want to look for, especially in the later months of the season, is how hot it's going to get. When we get into July, August, September, we do not want to see temperatures going much above the 80s at the beach. That's not a good thing for us. What ends up happening is if the temperatures start to rise too much and we get into the 80s, it's going to make what we call a heat bubble. What ends up happening is the wind's going to kick in early in the morning, and around like 10, 30, 11, we'll have some teens. And then as the day goes on and it gets into the mid-afternoon, the wind's going to go up and it's going to drop very quickly as the temperatures rise. It's just that heat builds in so much that the wind will actually lose its pressure, and instead of going in towards the shoreline, it sweeps out away from it, and the wind dies very quickly. So in those months, you want to make sure that if you're out there riding and it feels really good and you feel it start to taper off, get yourself in the shore real quick, because it's going to drop very quickly and shoot offshore. So those are the things we look at. We look at our kite surf with our wind direction is very important, and the wind speeds for the day with the forecast models, the current weather situation with overcast skies if it's clear, looking for the clear skies, and then looking for the temperatures in the later months, making sure we don't get much hotter than the 80s to prevent the heat bubble. So that is a general overview for looking at forecasts here in Southern California. If you have any questions on any of that, feel free to leave a comment below, drop us an email, or give us a call when you're looking at the forecast. But hopefully that should give you a good idea of what to look for in giving yourself your own forecast. So everybody have a great week. Stoked to see you back here on Friday, and happy kiting, everybody. Hey
everybody, Chip Ripperson here. If you liked that video, be sure to subscribe to our channel. That way you'll be notified every time we post new videos like this one. And if you want to see more videos that are already on the channel, be sure to click right here for more of our pro rider interviews, gear reviews, and more vlog posts. Happy kiting, everybody. Ew!